Maya Chen sat in the back corner of the Galactic Defense Academy's largest lecture hall, her dark eyes focused on the holographic display showing battle formations from the Centauri Wars. Around her, 200 cadets from 12 different species whispered, argued, and took notes on their various devices. None of them paid any attention to the small human girl who never spoke unless directly asked a question. The Academy was a marvel of engineering, built on the neutral moon of Kepler 442c, where the brightest young minds from across the galaxy came to learn military strategy, combat tactics, and interspecies diplomacy. The massive structure rotated slowly, creating artificial gravity in its outer rings, while the central hub remained in zero gravity for specialized training. Crystal spires reached toward the star-filled void, their surfaces gleaming with the soft blue light of energy shields. Maya had been at the Academy for 8 months now, and she was certain that most of her classmates had forgotten her name. To the towering Zelethans, with their 4 arms and crystalline skin, she was just another tiny mammal. To the swift, bird-like Kavari, who could fly even in artificial gravity, she was earthbound and slow. To the intellectual Xerions with their enlarged craniums and telepathic abilities, she was mentally unreachable and therefore unremarkable. Even among her fellow humans, Maya blended into the background. While other human cadets like Marcus Webb from Earth's Luna colony impressed everyone with his knowledge of ancient Earth military history, or Sarah Kim from the Mars Terraform Project dazzled professors with her engineering innovations, Maya simply existed. She completed her assignments perfectly, but never volunteered answers. She scored exactly in the middle of every test, never failing, but never excelling enough to draw attention. The Battle of Proxima Station demonstrates the importance of utilizing each species' natural advantages, Professor Corvain was saying, his mechanical voice filtering through his environmental suit. The mechanoid instructor had lost his original biological form centuries ago, now existing as pure consciousness within a mobile machine body. The Zealathans provided the heavy assault force, while Kavari scouts gave early warning, and human engineers solved the technical challenges of boarding enemy vessels. Marcus Webb's hand shot up immediately. Professor, wasn't it actually human Admiral Chen who devised the 3-pronged strategy that won the battle? Maya's fingers paused over her tablet. Chen was a common name, but hearing it in this context always made her uncomfortable. She kept her expression neutral as Professor Corvain's optical sensors focused on Marcus. Indeed, Cadet Webb. Admiral Chen's tactics were unconventional, but effective. Humans have a peculiar talent for adapting strategies in real time, often abandoning careful plans in favor of intuitive decisions. A Xerion cadet named Zelek's mind voice rippled through the lecture hall, causing sensitive species to wince slightly. Inefficient. Logical planning should always supersede emotional impulses. Tell that to the Proxima Station defenders, Marcus shot back. They had the logical plan, and they lost. Maya watched the familiar debate unfold around her. This was the eternal discussion at the Academy. Logic versus intuition, calculated planning versus adaptive thinking, the methodical approach of advanced species versus the chaotic creativity of younger races like humans. She glanced down at her tablet, where she had been taking notes not on the professor's lecture, but on the behavioral patterns she observed in her classmates. Maya had filled dozens of files with detailed observations about how each species moved, thought, and reacted under different circumstances. It was a habit she had developed long before arriving at the Academy, and she found it soothing to catalog the subtle tells that revealed someone's intentions, capabilities, and weaknesses. For instance, she had noted that Kavari always unconsciously spread their wing arms slightly when preparing to make a point in class, a subconscious preparation for the quick gestures they used while speaking. Zelethan's crystalline skin changed hue based on their confidence level. bright and clear when certain, cloudy and dim when unsure. Zarian's telepathic broadcasts became sharper and more focused when they were about to challenge someone's statement. The lecture ended and cadets began filing out toward their next classes. Maya gathered her things slowly, as always, waiting for the crowds to thin before moving. She preferred empty corridors to crowded ones. Maya, right? She looked up to find Zara Okafor, one of the more popular human cadets, standing beside her table. Zara was everything Maya was not: tall, confident, outgoing, and blessed with the kind of natural charisma that made people want to follow her into battle. "Yes," Maya replied simply. "We're putting together a study group for advanced tactical analysis. Want to join? We could use another perspective." Maya considered the offer carefully. Study groups meant attention, questions, and the risk of standing out. On the other hand, advanced tactical analysis was taught by Commander Threx, a veteran draconian whose species had never lost a ground war in their 3,000-year recorded history. The class was notoriously difficult, and even Maya's careful strategy of maintaining average grades was being challenged. "I'll think about it," Maya said. Zara smiled. "Sure, no pressure. We're meeting in study room C7 tomorrow at 1900 hours if you change your mind." After Zara left, Maya remained seated for a moment, processing the interaction. Study groups were dangerous for someone trying to remain invisible, but they were also sources of valuable intelligence about her classmates' capabilities and thinking patterns. Her next class was combat simulations with instructor Vex, a scarred Zealothan whose 4 arms could move independently while her mind calculated trajectories and weapon efficiency with mechanical precision. The simulation chamber was one of Maya's favorite places in the academy, not because she enjoyed the combat exercises, but because they revealed more about her classmates than any amount of classroom observation. Maya arrived early and selected her usual position in the back of the group. The simulation chamber was a massive spherical room lined with holographic projectors and gravity manipulators that could create any environment imaginable. Today's scenario appeared to be an asteroid mining facility under attack by raiders. "Today we will test your ability to function as a unit," Instructor Vex announced, her secondary arms checking the simulation controls while her primary arms gestured toward the assembled cadets. "You will be divided into 5 teams of 8 members each. Your objective is to retake the mining facility and secure the civilian workers trapped inside." Maya ended up on Team 5 with an interesting mix: 2 Kavari, a Zarion, 2 Zealothans, Marcus Webb, another human named David Park, and herself. As the team leader selection process began, she watched the predictable jockeying for position. Marcus naturally assumed he would lead, given his academic performance and outgoing personality. The Zealothans, Korthak, and Trilex clearly believed their species' military tradition gave them superior qualifications. The Zarion Mindweaver Jaxis projected subtle mental pressures, suggesting telepathic coordination would be most efficient. "I propose we divide responsibilities based on natural advantages," Marcus suggested, falling into his usual diplomatic tone. "Kavari for reconnaissance, Zealothans for heavy assault, Jaxis for coordination, and humans for technical adaptations." "Acceptable," rumbled Korthak, her crystalline skin brightening with approval. Maya said nothing, which was interpreted as agreement. The team spent the next few minutes developing their strategy, with Maya assigned to technical support, essentially staying in the back and helping with any engineering challenges that might arise. The simulation began, and Maya's team found themselves on the rocky surface of a mining asteroid, looking down at the facility built into a crater below. The structure was a maze of tunnels and chambers, with multiple levels connected by maintenance shafts and emergency passages. Red emergency lights blinked throughout the complex, and the team could see raider ships parked near the main entrance. "Wreck and whistle, scout the perimeter and report back," Marcus ordered the two Kavari. Korthak and Trilex, prepare for frontal assault on my mark. Jaxis, maintain mental link with all team members. David, work with Maya on finding alternate entry points. Maya activated her scanning equipment and began analyzing the facility's layout. But she was also paying attention to something else entirely. Through the simulation's environmental sensors, she could hear the raiders moving inside the structure. Their footsteps, their voices, their weapons clattering against the metal surfaces. Most importantly, she was listening to the patterns of their movement. While her teammates focused on the obvious tactical elements, firepower, defensive positions, escape routes, Maya was building a three-dimensional map in her mind of every living being in the complex. She tracked the raiders' patrol patterns, identified their command structure based on how they moved in relation to each other, and calculated their response times to various stimuli. "I found a maintenance tunnel that leads directly to the central hub," David reported. "Maya, what do you think? Your scanner showing any heat signatures in that area?" Maya glanced at her scanner, which showed exactly what David had already identified. But that was not what interested her. "The tunnel has acoustic resonance points every 30 meters, she said quietly. "If we use it, they'll hear us coming long before we reach the hub." "How can you know that?" Trilex asked, her forearms flexing with impatience. Maya hesitated. The truth was that she had memorized the acoustic properties of virtually every building material used in standard space construction, and she could calculate sound transmission rates based on tunnel dimensions and atmospheric density. But explaining that would raise questions she was not prepared to answer. "Lucky guess," she said instead. The assault began according to Marcus's plan, with the Zealothans charging the main entrance, while the Kavari provided aerial reconnaissance, and the rest of the team attempted to infiltrate through a side passage. It was a solid textbook strategy that should have worked against most opponents. It failed spectacularly. The raiders had anticipated exactly this type of conventional attack and had prepared accordingly. The Zealothans found themselves caught in a crossfire between multiple defensive positions, while the infiltration team walked into a trap that left David and Marcus stunned by neural disruptors. Within 10 minutes, most of Maya's team was either eliminated or pinned down under heavy fire. "Simulation paused," Instructor Vex announced. "Team 5, explain your failure." Marcus, looking embarrassed, began analyzing their tactical errors. The Zealothans discussed the raiders' superior positioning. Jaxis noted the effectiveness of the enemy's mental shields against telepathic coordination. "Chen," Instructor Vex said suddenly, her scarred face turning toward Maya. "You have been silent. What is your assessment?" Maya felt every eye in the simulation chamber focusing on her. This was exactly the kind of attention she had spent months avoiding. But Instructor Vex was known for her intolerance of silence when direct questions were asked. "We treated them like standard raiders," Maya said carefully. "But their movement patterns and response times indicate military training. They're not random pirates. They're organized soldiers using the facility's structure to maximize defensive advantage while minimizing their own exposure." "Continue," Vex commanded. Maya took a breath. Once she started talking tactics, it was hard to stop. "The real problem is that we approach this like a training exercise instead of treating it like a real combat situation. In training, you follow doctrine and execute standard procedures. In combat, you identify your enemy's specific capabilities and adapt accordingly." "And how would you adapt?" Maya was quiet for a long moment. Around her, she could feel the mixture of curiosity and skepticism from her classmates. They were waiting for the quiet girl to embarrass herself with naive suggestions. "I'd need to see them move for another few minutes," Maya said finally. "But based on their current patterns, I think they have a weakness we could exploit." Instructor Vex's expression was unreadable. "Reset simulation. Team 5 will attempt the scenario again, with Chen as tactical advisor." Maya's heart sank. Being tactical advisor meant she would have to speak up, make suggestions, and potentially reveal more than she was comfortable showing. But refusing a direct order from Instructor Vex was not an option. As the simulation reset and her team prepared for their second attempt, Maya found herself in the one position she had worked so hard to avoid, the center of attention, with everyone waiting to see if the quiet human girl actually knew what she was talking about. Maya closed her eyes for 30 seconds as the simulation reset, listening to the ambient sounds of the virtual mining facility. When she opened them, her teammates were staring at her with expressions ranging from hopeful to skeptical. The raiders have established overlapping fields of fire covering all obvious approach routes, Maya said quietly, her voice barely carrying over the simulation's background noise. But they're using military doctrine designed for defending against conventional forces. They expect us to follow the same playbook every academy team follows. So what do you suggest? Marcus asked, his earlier embarrassment replaced by genuine curiosity. Maya pointed toward the facility's lower levels. Their patrol patterns show they're concentrating on the main and secondary entrances, but look at the power consumption readings. There's a section in the sub-basement that's drawing almost no energy. That means minimal life support, which means they don't expect anyone to go there. Because it's probably a dead end, Trillex pointed out, her crystalline skin flickering with doubt. Or because it's the waste processing center, Maya replied. Every facility like this has redundant systems for safety reasons. Waste processing connects to every level through maintenance shafts that are too small for normal patrols, but large enough for infiltration. Jaxus's mental voice rippled with interest. The smell would mask our presence from their sensors. Maya nodded. And the processing equipment generates enough electromagnetic interference to block most scanning attempts. We could move through the entire facility without them knowing we were there. Until we emerge and they shoot us, Korthak grumbled. Not if we emerge in the right place at the right time, Maya said. Watch their patrol patterns for another 60 seconds. There's a gap in their coverage that repeats every 4 minutes and 30 seconds. The team watched in silence as Maya had requested, and gradually they began to see what she had identified within moments of the simulation starting. The raiders were indeed following a strict pattern, and there was a blind spot in their coverage that lasted approximately 23 seconds. That's not much time, David observed. It's enough, Maya said, but only if we move as a unit and everyone follows instructions exactly. Marcus looked around at the team. As the designated leader, the decision was his to make. But Maya's analysis had been more thorough in 5 minutes than his team's planning had been in the first 15. All right, Chen. Walk us through it. What followed was the most complex tactical maneuver any of them had ever attempted in simulation. Maya guided them through the waste processing tunnels, timing their movements to coincide with the facility's automated systems to mask the sounds of their passage. She had somehow calculated the exact route that would take them through 3 levels of the structure while avoiding every sensor and patrol. When they emerged, it was directly behind the raiders' command center during the precise 23-second window when the area was unguarded. The team eliminated the command staff before they could raise an alarm, then used the raiders' own communication system to send false orders that scattered the remaining forces. Simulation complete, Instructor Vex announced. Team 5, total victory, 0 casualties. Civilian rescue objective achieved in 14 minutes, 27 seconds. The silence that followed was profound. 14 minutes was the Academy record for the asteroid mining scenario. Most teams took over an hour and suffered significant casualties. How did you know all that? Whistle asked, her Kavari voice carrying harmonics of amazement. Maya was already retreating back into her shell. I just listened carefully and made some lucky guesses. But Instructor Vex was studying Maya with an intensity that made her deeply uncomfortable. Chen, remain after class. The rest of you are dismissed. As her teammates filed out, Maya caught fragments of their whispered conversations. Marcus was telling David that he had never seen tactical analysis like that from someone their age. The Zelathans were discussing whether humans had hidden military capabilities they were not aware of. Jaxus was broadcasting confused mental static, unable to understand how a mind she could not read had developed such effective strategies. When they were alone, Instructor Vex approached Maya's position. "That was not luck," the Zelithan said bluntly. "That was the kind of tactical awareness that takes decades to develop. Where did you learn those skills?" "I've always been good at noticing patterns," Maya replied, sticking as close to the truth as possible. "Patterns," Vex repeated. "You identified 17 separate patrol routes, calculated electromagnetic interference levels for 6 different types of equipment, and predicted behavioral responses with 96% accuracy. Those are not patterns, Cadet Chen. That is intelligence-level analysis." Maya said nothing, hoping her silence would be interpreted as modesty rather than secrecy. "Very well," Vex said after a long pause, "but understand this. Skills like yours do not remain hidden forever. Word of today's simulation will spread, and other instructors will begin watching you more closely." As Maya left the simulation chamber, she realized that her careful 8-month strategy of invisibility had just collapsed in 14 minutes. By evening, every cadet in the academy would know that the quiet human girl was not what she appeared to be. She was right. At dinner, she found herself surrounded by classmates asking questions about tactical theory and combat analysis. When she tried to retreat to her usual isolated table, Zara Okafor intercepted her. "You have to tell me how you figured out that waste processing route," Zara insisted. "I've run that simulation 6 times, and I never even considered going through the sub-levels." "It was just common sense," Maya said weakly. "Common sense doesn't break academy records," Marcus added, appearing beside Zara with his dinner tray. "Come on, Maya, share the secret. How do you see things the rest of us miss?" Before Maya could answer, the academy's emergency alert system activated. Red lights flashed throughout the dining hall as Commander Threx's voice echoed from the speakers. "All cadets report to emergency stations immediately. This is not a drill. We have received a priority distress call from the Kepler Research Station. Unknown hostile forces have taken control of the facility and are holding civilian researchers hostage." The dining hall erupted in controlled chaos as cadets abandoned their meals and rushed toward their assigned emergency positions. Maya tried to blend into the crowd, but found Zara and Marcus flanking her as they moved. "Emergency stations are just for advanced cadets," Zara explained. "Second and third-year students, first years like us, are supposed to return to quarters and wait for updates." But as they approached the dormitory levels, Commander Threx's voice returned to the speakers. "Additionally, any cadet with specialized tactical or combat experience should report to Briefing Room Alpha for potential support assignments. Command staff will evaluate individual capabilities for possible deployment." Maya stopped walking. Around her, other first-year cadets continued toward their quarters, but she could see several older students changing direction toward the briefing room. "Maya," Marcus said quietly, "that simulation today, that wasn't beginner's luck, was it?" She looked at him, then at Zara, then at the other cadets streaming past them in the corridor. In a few hours, news of the hostage situation would spread throughout the academy. If the crisis was serious enough, even first-year cadets might be called upon to help. And when that happened, her skills would be needed. More importantly, people would die if she did nothing. The same tactical awareness that let her predict radar movements in a simulation could save real lives on a research station. "No," Maya said finally, "it wasn't luck." Without explanation, she turned and headed toward Briefing Room Alpha. Behind her, she heard Marcus and Zara following, their footsteps echoing in the corridor as the Academy's emergency lighting cast long shadows on the walls. Briefing Room Alpha was designed to accommodate the Academy's most senior cadets and instructors. When Maya entered, she found herself in a room full of third- and fourth-year students who had already seen real combat during their advanced training rotations. She was the youngest person in the room by at least 2 years, and several species she had never seen before were represented among the gathered cadets. Commander Threx stood at the front of the room, his massive draconian form radiating the kind of calm authority that came from centuries of military command. His scales were deep green with silver markings that indicated his rank and combat experience, and his eyes held the sharp intelligence that had made his species the most feared military force in the galaxy. "The situation is critical," Threx began without preamble. "The Kepler Research Station has been seized by unknown attackers who have demonstrated capabilities beyond standard pirate or terrorist organizations. They have taken 47 civilian researchers hostage and are demanding the release of certain classified research data." A holographic display activated, showing the research station's layout. Maya studied it carefully, noting the structural similarities to the mining facility from the simulation while cataloging the differences that would affect tactical approaches. "The attackers have disabled all external communications except for their demands," Threx continued. "They have also deployed electronic countermeasures that are preventing our ships from approaching within scanning range. We know nothing about their numbers, equipment, or specific objectives beyond their stated demands." A senior cadet, a fourth-year Zelythan named Corvex, raised 2 of his hands. "Commander, has the Galactic Defense Force been notified?" "GDF response vessels are 6 hours away," Threx replied. "The hostages may not have 6 hours. Intelligence suggests the attackers have a deadline, though we do not know what that deadline is or what will happen when it passes." Maya felt a chill run down her spine. 6 hours was not enough time for a conventional rescue operation, especially without intelligence about the enemy force. But it might be enough time for a small, carefully planned infiltration. "Therefore," Threx continued, "we are considering an immediate reconnaissance mission using Academy resources. A small team of advanced cadets would approach the station, gather intelligence about the attackers, and potentially execute a rescue operation if circumstances allow." The room buzzed with excitement and nervous energy. This was what every cadet trained for, the chance to put their skills to use in a real crisis. But Maya could see the fundamental problem that no one else was addressing. "Sir," she said quietly, raising her hand. Every head in the room turned toward her. Commander Threx's reptilian eyes focused on her with interest. "Yes, cadet?" "Chen, sir. First year." She paused, feeling the weight of everyone's attention. "Commander, how do we know this isn't exactly what the attackers want us to do?" Threx's expression didn't change, but Maya could sense his increased attention. "Explain your reasoning, Cadet Chen." Maya took a breath. "They disabled external communications, but left one channel open for demands. They deployed countermeasures that prevent long-range scanning but not close approach. And they chose a research station that's less than 2 hours from the premier military academy in this sector of the galaxy." She gestured toward the holographic display. "This could be a trap designed specifically to draw academy personnel into a controlled engagement. The real question is, what could they gain from capturing or eliminating advanced military cadets?" The room fell silent as the implications sank in. If Maya was right, then responding to the crisis with Academy personnel would be giving the attackers exactly what they wanted. But if she was wrong, 47 innocent people would die while they hesitated. Commander Threx studied Maya for a long moment. "An interesting analysis from a first-year cadet. Tell me, Cadet Chen, how would you verify whether this is a trap without falling into it?" Maya realized she had just volunteered herself for the most dangerous question possible. Everyone in the room was waiting for her answer, and the wrong response could doom both the hostages and any rescue team. But as she looked at the holographic display of the research station, Patterns began forming in her mind, the same kind of patterns she had identified in the simulation, but infinitely more complex and with real lives hanging in the balance. Maya stared at the holographic display, her mind processing dozens of variables simultaneously. The research station's layout, the attackers' behavior patterns, the timing of their demands, the strategic value of their target selection, everything formed a complex puzzle that was beginning to make sense. Send a single, unarmed reconnaissance probe on a predictable trajectory, she said finally. If this is a trap, they'll either ignore it to maintain the illusion of a simple hostage situation, or they'll destroy it to prevent us from gathering intelligence. Either response tells us something important about their capabilities and objectives. Commander Threx nodded slowly. And if they ignore the probe, then we know they're confident in their ability to handle whatever force we send against them, which means they're either extremely well-equipped or they have intelligence about Academy capabilities that they shouldn't possess. And if they destroy the probe? Maya hesitated. This was where her analysis led to conclusions she wasn't sure she should voice. Then we know they have weapon systems capable of precision targeting at long range. That level of equipment isn't available to standard hostile groups, which means we're dealing with either a military force or someone with access to military-grade technology. A third-year human cadet named Alexandra Torres leaned forward. You're talking about the possibility of a traitor, someone who knows Academy protocols and capabilities. Or worse, Maya said quietly. Someone who knows individual cadet profiles and has planned this operation specifically to test or eliminate certain personnel. The room erupted in whispered conversations as cadets discussed the implications. Commander Threx raised his hand for silence, then activated the communication system. Control. Deploy reconnaissance probe Mark 7 on standard approach vector to Kepler Research Station. Full passive scanning. Maintain safe distance until further orders. Acknowledged, Commander. Probe deploying now. The holographic display shifted to show the probe's trajectory toward the research station. Maya watched intently, counting seconds and calculating distances. If her analysis was correct, the attacker's response to the probe would reveal crucial information about their true capabilities. At exactly 14 minutes and 37 seconds into the probe's approach, it vanished in a brief flare of energy. Probe destroyed, the control room reported. Energy signature consistent with military-grade pulse laser fired from the research station itself. Commander Threx's expression had grown grim. The station's defensive systems were supposedly deactivated for maintenance. Either our intelligence was wrong or the attackers have restored and upgraded the weapon systems in less than 6 hours. Maya felt pieces of the puzzle clicking into place. Commander, what was the nature of the research being conducted at the Kepler station? Classified, Threx replied immediately. Sir, with respect, I think the classification might be part of the problem. If I'm right about this being a targeted operation, then the attackers already know what research was being conducted. The only people being kept in the dark are the ones trying to mount a rescue. After a long pause, Threx activated a privacy screen around their section of the briefing room. The Kepler station was conducting advanced research into human neural architecture and its applications to tactical analysis systems. The words hit Maya like a physical blow. She had spent 8 months hiding her capabilities, but if someone had been monitoring her performance, they would have identified her as exactly the kind of subject that research was designed to study. They're not after the research data, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. They're after the research subjects. Explain, Threx commanded. Maya's hands were shaking as she accessed her cadet file on her personal tablet. Sir, you need to see my actual performance records, not the ones in the Academy database. She transferred her hidden files to the briefing room's display system. What appeared was not the middle-of-the-pack academic record everyone knew, but a comprehensive analysis of every tactical scenario, combat simulation, and strategic problem she had encountered in 8 months at the academy. The room fell silent as cadets read through Maya's real scores. Perfect tactical awareness in every situation, flawless prediction of enemy movements and strategic responses, analysis capabilities that exceeded most graduate-level military officers. "Impossible," breathed Alexandra Torres. "These scores, they're better than anything in Academy records." "Because I was hiding them," Maya said. "I've been deliberately performing at average levels to avoid attention. But if someone was monitoring my real capabilities..." Commander Threx's reptilian eyes were fixed on Maya with an intensity that made her want to disappear. "Cadet Chen, what is your actual background?" Maya closed her eyes. She had hoped to complete her academy training without anyone discovering the truth. She had wanted to be just another cadet, learning alongside her classmates and building a normal military career. But 47 innocent people were hostages because someone had identified her despite her efforts to remain invisible. "My full name is Maya Chen Rodriguez," she said quietly. "My grandmother was Admiral Elena Chen, architect of the Proxima Station Victory. My mother is Dr. Sarah Rodriguez, who designed the neural interface systems currently used in all Galactic Defense Force command vessels." The room exploded in shocked murmurs. Admiral Chen was a legend, one of the greatest tactical minds in military history. Dr. Rodriguez was equally famous in scientific circles, her work having revolutionized space combat coordination. "And you are?" Threx prompted. "I'm the first successful subject of their combined research," Maya replied. "I was born with enhanced neural pathways that allow me to process tactical information at speeds that normal human brains can't match. I can track hundreds of variables simultaneously, predict complex behavioral patterns, and develop effective strategies in real-time combat situations." She gestured toward the display showing the destroyed probe. "But I'm also exactly the kind of asset that hostile forces would want to capture or eliminate. If they can't have my capabilities, they'll make sure no one else can either." Commander Threx was quiet for nearly a minute, processing the implications. "The research at Kepler Station was attempting to replicate your abilities artificially." "Yes, sir. And if they succeed, they could create enhanced tactical systems that would give them decisive advantages in any military conflict. Or if they capture you, they could study your neural structure directly and achieve the same result." Maya nodded. "Which means this entire hostage situation might be designed to force me into a rescue attempt where I can be captured." The briefing room had become completely silent as everyone realized the scope of the trap. The attackers hadn't just seized a research station, they had created a scenario specifically designed to capture the most valuable tactical asset in the academy. "Sir," Alexandra Torres said suddenly, "with respect, none of this changes the fact that 47 innocent people are being held hostage. Whatever the attackers' ultimate goal, we can't abandon civilians." "Agreed," Threx said. "But we also cannot allow Cadet Chen to fall into enemy hands. Her capabilities are too valuable to risk." Maya stood up abruptly. "Commander, I respectfully request permission to volunteer for the rescue mission." Every person in the room started speaking at once, voices raised in protest and disbelief. But Maya continued speaking over them. "They want me to come to them because they think they can control the engagement. They're expecting me to follow standard protocols and walk into whatever trap they've prepared. But I've spent 8 months studying every cadet, instructor, and tactical scenario in this academy. I know capabilities and patterns that they don't know I know." She activated the holographic display and began rapidly modifying the research station's layout, adding tactical annotations and movement patterns. "More importantly, I know something they don't. I'm not just enhanced, I'm also trained by the best military minds in the galaxy since I was 6 years old. My grandmother didn't just teach me tactics from her historical victories. She taught me how to think like she thought, how to see warfare from perspectives that no enemy would expect. The display now showed a complex three-dimensional battle plan that accounted for dozens of variables and contingencies. Maya had developed it in less than 3 minutes, and it was more sophisticated than plans that normally took teams of officers hours to create. They're expecting enhanced human capabilities, Maya continued. They're not expecting 2 generations of military genius applied through enhanced neural architecture. Commander Threx studied the battle plan carefully. This assumes you can predict their behavior with perfect accuracy. No, sir. It assumes they'll behave logically according to their objectives, which means they'll make predictable mistakes when confronted with scenarios they haven't planned for. Maya highlighted specific sections of her plan. They want to capture me, which means they can't use lethal force against me directly. That limitation creates exploitable weaknesses in their defensive positions. They also need to keep the hostages alive as leverage, which restricts their movement and weapon deployment options. She paused, then added the final element that made her plan truly dangerous. And they're expecting me to arrive with a standard Academy rescue team. They're not expecting me to arrive alone. The room erupted again. But this time, Commander Threx silenced everyone with a sharp gesture. Absolutely not. I will not authorize a solo infiltration mission. Sir, a team approach plays directly into their trap. They've planned for multiple combatants, coordinated tactics, and standard military protocols. But they can't plan for what they don't understand, and they don't understand how my capabilities actually work in practice. Maya activated her personal files again, showing detailed analysis of every combat simulation she had participated in over the past 8 months. In team exercises, I've been deliberately limiting my performance to avoid standing out. But in solo scenarios during private training sessions, I've achieved success rates that Academy computers initially classified as statistical errors. The data was overwhelming. When working alone, Maya's performance reached levels that seemed almost superhuman. She had successfully completed infiltration scenarios that were considered impossible, defeated simulation opponents that had been designed to be unbeatable, and solved tactical problems that had stumped entire teams of advanced cadets. The question isn't whether I can succeed, Maya said quietly. The question is whether 47 innocent people die while we debate alternatives. Commander Threx stood silently for a long moment, his reptilian features unreadable. When he finally spoke, his voice carried the weight of command authority that had led draconian forces through centuries of warfare. Very well, Cadet Chen, but you will not go alone. You will take a minimal support team. 2 volunteers who understand the risks and are willing to follow your tactical command without question. Maya looked around the room at her fellow cadets. She needed people who were skilled enough to keep up with her capabilities, but flexible enough to adapt to unconventional strategies. More importantly, she needed people who trusted her enough to follow orders that might seem impossible or insane. I'll go, Marcus Webb said immediately. After today's simulation, I think it's pretty clear that following Maya's tactical instincts is the smart choice. And me, added Alexandra Torres. 3rd-year advanced combat specialist. I've run enough infiltration missions to know when someone has skills beyond standard training. Maya nodded gratefully. Thank you both. But understand, once we begin this mission, everything you think you know about combat tactics might not apply. I'll be making decisions based on information processing that normal human minds can't replicate, and some of my orders might not make sense until after they succeed. We understand, Marcus said. Just get us to the hostages and get everyone out alive. Commander Threx activated the mission briefing protocols. Your transport launches in 20 minutes. Intelligence updates will be transmitted during your approach. And Cadet Chen? Yes, sir. Your grandmother would be proud. As Maya headed toward the equipment bay to prepare for the most dangerous mission of her life, She realized that her 8 months of carefully maintained invisibility had led to this moment, where the very skills she had hidden would determine whether innocent people lived or died. The quiet classmate nobody noticed was about to become the Academy's most crucial asset. But first, she had to survive long enough to prove that human tactical genius, enhanced neural architecture, and a lifetime of military training could overcome whatever trap was waiting for her at the Kepler research station